Around 2 a.m., Sasha Samsadian got back to her apartment in downtown Orlando after a fun night out with friends. Security cameras showed her walking into the building, alone and ready to end the night. But later that day, police would show up at her door. What they found inside shocked everyone. The clues they uncovered led to a dark and unexpected truth, and the person responsible was someone no one ever imagined. At just 27 years old, Sasha Samsadian had carved out a promising life for herself. Based in Orlando, Florida, she worked as a social media manager for a local real estate agency, a job she was passionate about and excelled in. Described as energetic, sharp, and vibrant, Sasha was more than just a pretty face. Colleagues praised her professionalism, while friends admired her zest for life. She worked hard, celebrated often, and had a magnetic presence that lit up any room. Recently, she had moved into Uptown Place apartments at 911 North Orange Avenue, eager to embrace a new chapter in her life. The excitement was mutual. Sasha was thriving professionally and personally, and she was making every moment count. On the night of the Orlando soccer season finale, Sasha dressed in purple to cheer for her team. After a thrilling win, she joined friends at the Attic nightclub on East Pine Street to continue the celebration. Shortly after midnight, she decided to leave. It wasn't unusual. Her friends often split up for the night, planning to regroup later. Sasha had plans for breakfast the next morning with a friend, but when she didn't show up and didn't respond to calls or texts, he began to worry. Sasha was always connected, always responsive. Hours went by without a word. By afternoon, concern turned into alarm. Some of her friends went to check on her. In the parking lot of her apartment complex, Sasha's car was there. Inside the back seat was a baby shower gift she had planned to bring that day. They knocked on the door of Unit 345, but there was no answer. At 8 p.m., they called 911. When police entered the locked apartment, the living areas appeared untouched. But inside the bedroom, they made a horrifying discovery. Sasha's lifeless body was partially hidden under a duvet, with a hand visible at the edge of the bed. She had been brutally assaulted, raped, strangled, and beaten. Her body bore the signs of a struggle, with defensive wounds and abrasions. Her clothing had been torn, and the necklace she had worn was tangled in her hair. Her phone, purse, and key fob were missing. There was a strong smell of cleaning agents in the room, and suspicious bleach stains marked the bedsheets. Sasha's cleaning supply cabinet stood open, and a condom wrapper and shoe print were found nearby. Investigators noted something unusual. The toilet seat was up, a small but strange detail, considering Sasha lived alone. Fingerprints were found on the underside of the seat, and DNA was collected from her body during the autopsy. The medical examiner reported severe trauma to her neck, unlike anything he had seen before. Sasha had graduated from Seminole High School in Sanford, and the community was devastated. Police turned to the public for help, asking anyone who had seen anything in the early hours of that Saturday to come forward. Security footage from the apartment complex showed Sasha returning home just before 2 a.m. Cameras captured her in the hallway, but her entrance into the building was not straightforward. According to the on-site security guard, Stephen Duxbury, Sasha didn't have her key fob and entered when another resident opened the door. Duxbury admitted that he later found Sasha struggling to enter her apartment. She told him she might have left her keys in her car and asked him to walk with her. But moments after stepping outside, she turned back, claiming she suddenly remembered the door code. According to Duxbury, she rushed back inside alone. She never made it out again. Duxbury would later change his story. He now said he had seen Sasha again, this time with an unfamiliar man. That detail shifted everything. Police needed to identify this unknown individual, and quickly. Retracing Sasha's steps from the Attic nightclub to her apartment, detectives mapped out the 30-minute walk and reviewed hours of surveillance footage from that busy Friday night. In several clips, Sasha stood out in white jeans and a purple top. At one point, a street camera captured her with two other people. Hoping for answers, police issued a press release asking those individuals to come forward. It worked. The two women identified themselves and explained that they had found Sasha wandering alone and clearly intoxicated. She had no phone, no ID, and they were concerned. They decided to share an Uber with her to ensure she got home safely. But before they could reach her destination, Sasha abruptly exited the car at a red light, recognizing Uptown Place and rushing toward the entrance. The women followed to make sure she got inside safely. When Sasha couldn't access the building without her fob, they encountered the security guard, Stephen Duxbury, who refused to let her in without identification. As they spoke, another resident opened the door, allowing Sasha to slip inside. The women waited with Duxbury briefly, then left once Sasha had gone in. So far, all accounts aligned, but investigators still had more to uncover. Inside Sasha's apartment, police had found her iPad, which was synced to her iPhone. This allowed them to retrieve messages from the night of her death. One text sent at 5:12 a.m. simply read, "Ben." It was the last known activity from her devices. Ben had been someone Sasha was seeing casually. He told police they had made tentative plans to meet that weekend and admitted they had been texting that night. Ben willingly provided a DNA sample and was quickly ruled out. His alibi was airtight. Another man named Taylor, a former boyfriend who remained close with Sasha, was also interviewed. He had been working a bar shift the night she was killed, which was confirmed by multiple witnesses. Like Ben, his DNA did not match any of the samples collected. Just days after Sasha was found, her family held a private funeral. It was a heartfelt ceremony that honored her diverse background, blending Hindu, Islamic, and Christian traditions. One co-worker said it wasn't until the funeral that he realized how many lives Sasha had touched. Meanwhile, police finally gained access to Uptown Place's off-site CCTV footage and began reviewing it frame by frame. At 1:46 a.m., Sasha was seen entering the building. A man followed closely behind her and briefly asked if she was okay before disappearing from view. Moments later, Sasha climbed the stairs toward her apartment. She wasn't seen again. At 2:06 a.m., Sasha reappeared, this time running up another set of stairs. Security guard Duxbury was behind her, just as he had described to police. According to him, he had walked with Sasha to the parking garage to see if her keys were in her car. But when she claimed to remember her door code, they went back inside. Still, something felt off. Detectives kept reviewing the footage, looking for anything unusual in the hours that followed. Then, at 6:36 a.m., they spotted something significant. Stephen Duxbury was captured on camera exiting the second floor, carrying two large trash bags. He walked to the parking garage where his car was located, then returned to the building just 2 minutes later. Though he claimed his shift had ended at 6 a.m., he didn't actually leave the premises until 6:39. At first, Investigators wondered if taking out trash was part of his responsibilities, but building management confirmed that it was not. Even more disturbing, the trash bags Duxbury carried matched those found in Sasha's apartment. With this revelation, police obtained a search warrant for Duxbury's home. They also called him in to take a polygraph test. The man who had once been just a helpful witness was now the center of a murder investigation. As suspicion closed in on Stephen Duxbury, the night security guard at Uptown Place, investigators moved swiftly. He had been cooperative, at least on the surface. But during a polygraph test, his story began to unravel. When asked if he had ever entered Sasha's apartment, he denied it. But the polygraph indicated otherwise. His physiological responses spiked again when questioned about Sasha's cause of death. The tester asked whether she had been poisoned, stabbed, or strangled. Duxbury denied them all, but the moment strangulation was mentioned, his heart rate surged. Police knew this was critical. At that point, Sasha's cause of death had not been made public. There was no way Duxbury could have known she had been strangled, unless he had been there. While polygraphs are inadmissible in court, the inconsistencies fueled further investigation. At Duxbury's home, detectives found a pair of shoes that matched a footprint left in Sasha's bedroom. Just days later, forensic analysis confirmed that the fingerprint lifted from beneath Sasha's toilet seat belonged to Duxbury. DNA found on her body, including her chest, was also a match. It got worse. His phone history revealed a disturbing internet search made at approximately 5 a.m. on the morning Sasha was killed. He had looked up how to override a quick-set keypad lock, the very type used on Sasha's apartment door. The timing of the search was chilling. Just minutes before Sasha had sent her final message, a single-word text to her ex, Ben. Duxbury bore signs of a struggle, visible scratches and a bite mark on his arm. For detectives, the picture was becoming tragically clear. The man who was supposed to protect the residents had instead become the threat. On October 21, 2015, just days after Sasha's murder, Orlando police made it official. Stephen Duxbury was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, sexual battery, and burglary. He had used his position as a security guard to prey on someone vulnerable and defenseless. Investigators believed he took advantage of Sasha's impaired state, followed her into her apartment, then overpowered and attacked her. After sexually assaulting and strangling her, he attempted to clean the scene with her own household products and removed items from the apartment to dispose of them elsewhere, including in the trash bags caught on surveillance footage. 2 years later, in November 2017, Duxbury's trial began. His defense tried to suppress evidence, claiming his statements during the polygraph were made under the belief that he was obligated to cooperate or risk losing his license. They also filed to exclude key items like his shoes and interview recordings. But the judge wasn't swayed. She ruled that the evidence, including the shoes and polygraph statements, would be admitted. Legal experts noted the significance of this decision. In a circumstantial case, every detail matters. Each piece is a part of the larger puzzle. And for the prosecution, the pieces were falling into place. Duxbury's claim that he had never been inside Sasha's apartment stood in stark contrast to the forensic evidence. Blood, fingerprints, DNA, matching footwear, digital history, none of it supported his version of events. As the trial moved forward, the defense raised objections and hinted at more motions to exclude evidence, but the timeline was closing. Jury selection was imminent. Once it began, there would be no turning back. The man who was entrusted with the safety of Uptown Place residents now faced the consequences of his betrayal. And for Sasha's family and friends, it was the beginning of a long path toward justice. As the trial of Stephen Duxbury unfolded, his legal team pushed hard to cast doubt on the prosecution's case. Defense attorney Aaron Delgado claimed there were still unanswered questions, such as why Duxbury's clothing hadn't been tested for DNA and why the shoe prints inside Sasha's apartment matched a size 9 when Duxbury wore a 10.5. They emphasized that no security footage showed Duxbury actually entering Sasha's apartment. But the prosecution argued that the strength of the evidence didn't lie in surveillance. It lay in the science. DNA from Duxbury placed him in Sasha's bedroom. His internet searches, his altered timeline, and the surveillance footage showing him carrying trash bags taken from her unit told a chilling story, one that didn't require video proof to be convincing. When asked about the injuries Sasha suffered, the medical examiner said the abrasions on her lower body could have been caused by a utility or security belt during intercourse. Duxbury's defense even floated the idea that the two had consensual sex and that someone else could have entered afterward and committed the murder. But the prosecutor made the state's position clear. Her body doesn't lie. The crime scene doesn't lie. The trial lasted 7 days. After just 4 hours of jury deliberation, Stephen Duxbury was found guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder of Sasha Samsuddian. He also received an additional 15 years for attempted sexual battery with force and burglary with assault. The judge ordered the sentences to run consecutively. Duxbury remained silent when given the opportunity to speak after his sentencing. In a moment of quiet strength, Sasha's parents acknowledged the pain felt by Duxbury's family, particularly his mother, who sat quietly in the courtroom. But their grief was still raw. Sasha's mother voiced the heartbreak of all they had lost. No future birthdays, no wedding day to prepare for. Every time I attend a wedding, she said, I remember that we'll never have that for our daughter. The family's fight didn't end with the conviction. The Samsuddians filed a civil lawsuit against the Uptown Place apartment complex, its security company, Vital Security, and the manufacturer of the lock on Sasha's door, Spectra and Brands. The 102-page complaint alleged that a lot of complaints about Duxbury's behavior had been ignored, and that the keypad lock system he exploited was known to be flawed. Their attorney argued that the lock could have been easily compromised with something as basic as a screwdriver, citing articles detailing how the same model had failed in other instances. But the defense pushed back, claiming there was no way to prove a defect because the lock was never collected as evidence. It had been discarded by the unit owner after a new tenant moved in. In February 2019, Duxbury filed an appeal challenging the court's denial of his motion to suppress statements he made and seeking to overturn his conviction for attempted sexual battery. His appeal was denied. Even with justice served, the Samsuddian family's grief remained ever present, but Ken and Tara turned that pain into purpose. In the years that followed, they worked closely with the Orange County Sheriff's Office, helping other families navigate the devastation of violent loss. Tara, once a trauma nurse, stepped away from her role after Sasha's death. Instead, she devoted herself to supporting victims and survivors, sharing stories, and listening to others through initiatives like the annual Victims' Rights Breakfast. Sasha Samsuddian was more than a victim. She was a bright, passionate young woman whose life touched everyone around her. She was a beautiful soul, one of her co-workers recalled. She cared deeply, laughed easily, and made an impact wherever she went. Her family and friends continue to honor her memory, keeping her warmth and spirit alive through action, advocacy, and love. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.